Everyone, my name is Jake, and today we're going to be going over the recent elections. Well, not so recently, but the ones which happened the most recently in 2025 in November. Before I do that, I just want to make an announcement that I'm going to be, every week I'll be doing a recap of political events which has happened, throughout the week. Probably things that the president has said, Congress has said, things that have happened, important announcements about it, and potentially some overseas, diplomatic things. I'm just gonna recap it. I'm just gonna do that every week, probably on a Sunday. So the first one should be this Sunday. But let's get into the video. The first thing that we'll be covering in this election will be the New Jersey one, which was, I'd say, the most watched because it was expected to be close. Obviously, it really wasn't. But let's just go over. The Democratic primary. This one wasn't really very close, and neither was the Republican. Well, the Republican one was relatively close, I think. It was absolutely not close. So my bad. Um, so there were some interesting endorsements here. So I'm gonna go to Jack here, and a very important one, which I thought it would be slightly important here. We will ever find it, which maybe we won't at this point. Oh wait, no, I'm in the wrong thing. Anyways, it was the I forgot the thing. It was like the Jewish leaders over there. They endorsed him, so I thought that would potentially be important. However, it was not. So we can go to the polls here, and this is the wrong thing. I'm really messing up a lot here. The polling here, you can see she was barely leading by around 4 points. I believe she won by just a couple points, or maybe it wasn't her, but someone the Democratic won it just a couple points. So I thought it'd be slightly close. It was not close. A ridiculously big overperformance of 14 points, which was very unexpected. You can see a bunch of these areas turned blue compared to the 2024 election. So the next one, which I'll be looking at, this is going to be very shortly, will be the Virginia one, which the reason it's shortly is because it was never really in contention. One of the main factors is because Winsome Earl Sears was a horrible candidate for the Republicans. They should have never ran her. I don't know what they were thinking, because she ran her campaign on more social issues, and Abigail ran on more economics, which is obviously gonna do better because more people care about economics than social issues. I don't know what she's thinking. What are you doing? Um, so yeah, that's just my opinion on that. Um, and actually, the last governor was a Republican, Glenn, who won a couple points, and he had positive approval ratings plus 12. He was ridiculously popular there, and this is in a Democratic state. So they should have just ran someone who was basically the same as him, right? And it was actually smart enough to do that, but they didn't. Um, so we can see with the polling, it was never expected to be close, and it wasn't close. It was plus 15 Democratic. I think Republicans would have not won it anyways, but they could have had a chance if they just ran a better candidate. In my opinion, we can see, with this, it's really the upper and to the right areas which were the most important. Um, so we can actually, I think we can check the exit poll, which will be interesting. As you can see, 48% of them viewed the economy as the most important. So it was really a mistake by her to do that. She didn't win the majority of white people, but not really anyone else. Somehow she won 61% of men. I'm kind of surprised at that. In my 61% of white men, I'm kind of surprised at that. But yeah. So the next one is going to be, if this thing go back, will be the the Virginia Attorney General race. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about what Jay Jones said because I don't want my channel taken down. But it was not good. It was not good, and I'm just going to show that this was also a big surprise to me. I was pretty upset, to be honest, that I won with this one. But we can check the polling here, and Myers was actually winning, but there was some late polls. I mean, like basically the last day, which showed it would be tied, and she ended up winning. But I think he ended up winning by 7 points, which is ridiculous. We can also see here. Then in Virginia, 20%. It was negative 20 Trump's approval rating, which is not great over there. And I also think we can see based on who they voted in the actual. There was like 7% of people who voted for Earl that voted for the Republican candidate over here, or maybe they just didn't vote. So yeah, Um, Basically one of the last important ones, obviously. There's also the ballot measure in California, which was for the redistricting, and that passed by 30 points, which there was no competition there, but still passed by a lot. There's also some Supreme Court ones in Pennsylvania where Democrats won absolutely, they easily won it. There's also Georgia ones where they easily won. I mean, this was really low. The problem here is that these are all low turnout, and really the opposition party is going to win those because that's just kind of how politics works in the U.S. The last really important one would be the New York City mayor election, which was a very interesting one to watch. I live close to there. I don't live in New York City, but we may get some migration to Nassau County now. Who knows? New York City. Ignore that spelling mistake. So yeah, we see it was Mondami versus Cuomo versus Liwa, and he barely won 50%, above 50% of the vote. This is a really bad picture of Cuomo, so I'm just saying. Uh, yeah, obviously we know what Cuomo did, which 100% probably it was not great for him. Sliwa for a Republican, what's crazy, um, is that Sliwa was actually polling extremely high. He's polling at 20% as a Republican in New York City, but then Trump endorsed Cuomo, and his numbers absolutely plummeted, which is just crazy how much Trump has the control over it. But Democratic primary I'll go over. This one was looking like it would be Cuomo from the very start. As soon as he put his name to the ballot. But there was always going to be competition, which is why I'm not which is why it was kind of not surprising Mondami won, just because Cuomo is an old man, or he's relatively old, and it just makes sense that a younger person would win in this political climate, especially in New York City, um, with Mondami being a Democratic socialist. It's really not that surprising to me. Although most polls did show Cuomo winning, there was just a ridiculous amount of turnout. As we can see in here, there was 43% turnout, which is a lot in New York City, and especially in a off year. It was, I think it was it was the highest turnout in a long time. And this was always Mondami's ways to win when it was the actual general election. It was interesting to see to see just how many people were competing into it. Um, you also had Eric Adams, who was in it for a while, but then he just dropped out. And then the conservatives also didn't co-endorse Kursiwa because he was kind of critical of Trump. He's not one of the more right-wing Republicans. Um, but yeah, that's just my opinion on what's going on here. I think the big overview here is this was definitely a Democratic wave a couple months ago. There's very low turnout, which is to be expected, but that probably won't hold in 2026. Um, for some of these races, like a lot of the local ones, there was huge turnout among Democrats and not much among the Republicans, and that's just going to be very important to look forward in the midterm. So thank you all for watching. My name is Jake, and thank you.